Okay. But live, what's happening? You are live. Okay. Hello, everyone, and welcome. I want to do a first big disclaimer that my internet is really playing out today. So, fingers crossed that this show will go smoothly, but I'm already expecting some issues. So, in case something happens, my internet is not strong enough. We're dropping in and out. The content is not comprehensive. We would make sure that we would do it another time. We would get the content to you one way or another. But I really hope, and I'm praying to the internet gods that for the next hour it will be suitable and it will work okay. So that's a quick that's a quick announcement. But to today's amazing guest speaker. Hello Ash, how's it going?
Hey Lenka, how are you? I'm very good as well. It's brilliant here. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, thank you. It's lovely to have you here, and I'm so glad that we had a quick backstage chat. And I'm like, we are very informal here. We're winging it here, and I'm so happy that we're not perfect human beings here. We're doing our best, but we're not perfect. That this message resonates with you, and obviously, it's really lovely kind of introduction to the topic of today, which is kind of personal branding and how to use content to build your personal branding to really become omnipresent. So that's your topic, and I will let you to go ahead, share your screen, do your thing. I will be here in the background praying.
Awesome. No, thank you so much, Lenka, for having me on. And as we said, guys, this is going to be, if it's a bumpy ride, don't worry, we'll sort it out. If we don't get this done live, then we'll do something. I can record it. We'll work it out because it's a good idea. So thank you so much for having me on. So in today's topic, what we're going to cover is I love the title, which is Becoming Omnipresent Online. Omnipresent, just so people understand what that means, omnipresent is to be encountered all the time, ever present. And it's about building this idea, building this image that everywhere I look, you're there and you're talking about a specific thing all the time, which is sometimes referred to as personal branding. And so my topic is personal branding 101. And I'm going to talk you through it in a bit of detail. Obviously, I think there's some Q&A at the end as well, which I'm happy to do. And I'll give you some backstory to who I am as well. So strap in. There's going to be some data. It's going to be a bit fun. I'm very much winging it, guys, so I'm good with that as well. So who am I, if anyone doesn't know who I am? So my name is Ash Borland. I am a personal branding coach. I'm a podcaster. I'm a big enthusiast of content marketing and online personal brand businesses. So this is something I'm really, really passionate about. So what I do as a job is I help coaches, consultants, freelancers. They're my niche. I help those people unlock their social selling potential, clarify their marketing message, and effectively become the expert in what they do. So whether or not that is, and I'm a big believer in this idea of visibility over ability, which we'll talk about as we go through in this as well, is that you don't have to be the most practically best person out there to be the most successful. You actually just have to be the most seen. So that is where a lot of my mindset comes from, a lot of my theories come from, and everything I talk about. I'm also the host of the Personal Branding Secrets podcast. So the Personal Branding Secrets podcast is it's top 5% in the world for podcasting. We were hit from number 14 in the marketing charts at one point. We're not there anymore. I wish we were, but sadly not anymore. And this is a podcast designed purely to give people hear the secrets of other personal brand successes. I've had guests coming on in the next couple of weeks. We've got Nick Nimmin, we've got Daniel Disney, we've got Jonathan Palmer, who's killing it on LinkedIn right now, getting thousands of views, works for Shea Robot. And so we're going to the Spencer Lodge as well, we've had on the show. So we're going to these people and finding out, why do they do what they do? How do they stand out? How do they get seen by everybody? And the podcast is broken down into small, short episodes, because we'll find out now why that is important as we go through. And I'm also the creator of the Personal Branding Mastery Method. So the Personal Branding Mastery Method which is what we'll talk about as we go through this, as to everything I do is based around this method, which is that when personal branding started, and what I found when I, as a personal brand practitioner and an enthusiast, is that when you hear about personal branding, it can feel really woo woo. You hear things like be authentic, show your real self, and all of these things are very, very true, very, very true, but they're not tangible. And you might be listening to this, you might be watching this now, and you're thinking, that's great, but how do I do that? Because that's what I felt like. I was like, how? Okay, that's great. Thank you for that advice. That be authentic, but what is authentic? And then usually it would come back with just be true to yourself. And I think, okay, great, but how do I action that? How do I plan that? How do I do actually make a tangible personal brand plan that includes content marketing, social selling, and strategies kind of around behavioral psychology and consumer behavior. How do you do that? And so I made a step-by-step method that focuses purely on things that you can all do that's inside of your control. So this is where the introduction to this is going to be. I'm going to focus it a little bit on content as well, because I know that content is part of it. So I'm going to use a content as my kind of pillar, my lens that we talk through this, but I want to talk about that in more detail. So what is personal branding then? So what is personal branding? It is safe to say I've had amazing guests who have defined it as insurance to your career. I've had people define it as your authentic self. I've had all these different things, but whatever it may be, personal branding is safe to say that it's going to be one of, if not the most important factor in the next decade when it comes to future-proofing your career. Okay, so this is really important to understand. It is one of the easiest ways for you to make more money with less effort and stand out from your competition. One of the best ways to do it. And the reason why is that more and more people are making their hiring and buying decisions purely based off of what they feel about people. This is where you hear this term, people buy from people. This is becoming more and more common as the rise of the internet, which, I know that Lenka, I'm a big fan of the internet because the internet is giving power back to the people as opposed to the corporate. We won't get into corporates too much, but this is a big thing. But what people don't realize is that the internet is also eroding away a lot of jobs that were commodity based. So what I mean by that is if a job is based and a business is based around the product you sell and the price you do it for and nothing else, so just a transactional based business, then you're going to find that over the next decade, your line of work will probably go down. You only have to look at something like gyms. Made me laugh with this. One of my friends is a gym owner, and he says that it's the only industry where the memberships have gone down as the popularity's gone up. It's the only industry. Like, it doesn't make sense. And it's because it's commodity based, it's transactional based. So how do you future-proof against this? Well, when you start to put you as the forefront, then technology cannot replace you. So, and this is great then because you can then use technology and your personal brand is the forefront of what you do. And technology can then be a tool to make it quicker, faster, stronger, better. But people are buying you. And that's the main thing. That's the unique selling point. I'm a big believer of your number one, your only unique selling point, in my opinion, should be you. Obviously, this can differ but we can go into the nitty gritty of the weeds of the business branding and personal branding. And do you have people working for you? Of course. I mean, that's a whole different thing, but a kind of broad top level analogy of this would be that's what it is. Now, personal branding does have a definition, and I would like to show this to you that not once is the word authentic mentioned in this. So personal branding, the actual definition of personal branding is personal branding is the conscious and intentional effort to create and influence public perception of an individual by positioning themselves as an authority in their industry, elevating their credibility, and differentiating themselves from the competition to ultimately advance their career, increase their circle of influence, and have a larger impact. So not once is the term authentic mentioned in there, not once the term very much so, even though with social media, and I'm big on social media, I love it, social media is not mentioned in there, photography is not mentioned in there. So all of these things that you're going to find out is actually personal branding is just reputation management. Now we're going to talk about how you're going to do that more actionable, but I need you to understand where I'm coming from with personal branding. And also my mission is to educate people to understand what personal branding actually is. It's not subjective. it has a tangible definition. Now, you can believe what you want with it, but it has a definition. And when you understand that definition, you can now work in those parameters to build your personal brand. So it is effectively just reputation management. Now, when it comes to building a personal brand, and let's think about with this omnipresent idea, then you have to think about looking at other people. What other successful people what have they done? Now, I have 3 people that I always talk about whenever I do talks, and I do quite a few. So one of the 3 people that I would always talk about is these 3. Success leaves clues. You've got The Rock, David Beckham, Gary Vaynerchuk. Now, Gary Vaynerchuk, I would arguably say that I don't think he's anywhere near as big as the other 2, as The Rock and David Beckham. But in our world, in social media and digital marketing, in the kind of tech space, Gary Vee is very big, and I think he'll get there. But he's a good example of one to do. Now, these 3 people, I always put this up there, and I always talk about this because this is where we're going to start looking about how do you become omnipresent? How does your content strategy? Now, on face value, you will all look at those 3 and you'll say, they're great. They're everywhere. They're doing everything. But they actually all have they have a few things in common, but there's one major thing that they all have in common. One very, very major thing, which is so binary, so, black and white, that people often overlook it. And this is where it comes to this thing of how do you build your personal brand? How do you become omnipresent? How do you get people to know you? The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, purely started in wrestling. He built his name, his brand in wrestling. I'm not a wrestling fan, so this just shows you exactly how big this guy is. I know he's from a wrestler. I don't know any other wrestlers, maybe a few. Hulk Hogan comes to mind in the old 80s, back in the day. But Hulk Hogan, all those type of people. But for me, The Rock built his career in the ring. He was a wrestler. Once he'd done that one thing, so that's The Rock. David Beckham, he was a footballer. Again, I'm not a football fan. I'm a creative and a performer. I don't know about football. But David Beckham, he built his brand as a footballer. That was all he was. Gary Vaynerchuk, contrary to many people's belief, everyone goes, he does everything. He posts everywhere. If you do what Gary does, by the way, you will burn out very quick. So I can tell you that right now. Gary spoke about wine. He's Wine Library TV on YouTube. He spoke about wine for like a number of years, quite a long time. I can't remember exactly how long it was, but it's a long time. He just spoke about wine, and he was the wine guy, and he was featured on Ellen's show as the wine guy. That's how he was known. So if we connect these dots, all 3 of these people started by becoming a master at one thing and dominating their one space, which is so much easier to do than it is to do everything. Okay. So this is what people don't understand, that actually we look at them now, and The Rock is an actor, and he's he's an actor, and he's also an entrepreneur, and he's an internet sensation. There's other ones in this. Will Smith is in this. Arnold Schwarzenegger. Like, there's massive amounts of people. Mrs. Hinch is killing it right now. She's another one that's doing very well. But they start off in their one place. What people do very, very wrong is they didn't realize that these 3 guys all picked one thing and they became the best at it. And there's a great, one of my very good friends is a guy called Alex Curtis. And he says, and he's a digital marketing guy, owns the company called The Lead Engine. And he always says to me, he's a big fan of Batman. And he says, the reason why he's a fan of Batman is there's a quote at the beginning, and I'm probably going to completely misquote this, but he says, if you commit yourself to more than a thing, if you commit yourself to be more than a man, you become an ideal and you become a legend. And this is what people don't realize this. You will stand out from your competitors if you pick one thing to be known for. This is the very ground zero of how to make yourself more known. Don't try and do loads, do one. I'm not talking about niching, because niching is a bit different, but it's kind of the same way. Pick one thing. As you will grow, you will naturally start to leak over into other people's other areas and other things, of course. But be known for the one thing, and you'll see why. Now, the key to good design when it comes to making content and when it comes to building your personal brand and your strategy and everything that people get very, very wrong is the key to good design is not how much you can add, but actually about how much you can take away and it still makes sense. So people do this again. overcomplicate. These are little hurdles we're going to come up with. So what I've done is introduce personal branding, talk about kind of the concepts behind it, and then I'm going to give you some actionable stuff. I thought you were speaking to me then, Lenka. Says, I hope the stream looks good. It looks good on my end. So the key to good design is, like I said, it's about how much can you take away. What people get really confused with, and this is something that this might ring a bell with you. It does with me. I'm terrible at this, and I have to remind myself, just because I know this stuff doesn't mean I don't do it. It is that we actually think, I need more. I need to do more, and more will get better results. And it doesn't. Actually, less gets better results. Simplifying a process to the point where it's so simple and so sleek and so quick and so kind of no transitions is what makes people good. There's no shock why, for example, if you think about it with Steve Jobs, when Steve Jobs came back to Apple after he'd left and done his whole, you said Pixar and all of that stuff, when he came back to Apple, he killed off 70% of their products. And look at now where Apple is. That's a whole nother story with Apple, but look where it is now. He killed off his products. Simplicity. So if you are, and this is what I love with this, if you are a small business owner, you're a coach, a consultant, a freelancer, which I'm guessing you're an entrepreneur if you're in this kind of community. It's an entrepreneurial community. Simple. Keep it simple. Keep it clear. Make it very obvious for people to remember who you are and what you do. Because if you don't, they're going to go to somebody else. So this is something really important to understand. Now, when it comes to personal branding, there are three, and they're going to think about this with your content, but think about this in everything. So you can apply this to content, you can apply this to your strategies, you can apply this to everything. There are three core principles to being successful at personal branding. Now, there are loads of other areas, of course, and like I say, within my method, we look at ecosystems, we look at everything. There's tons of moving parts. But if I ever get brought onto podcasts and people say, Ash, what is the secret to personal branding? What would be your three top tips? These three win hands down. There is nothing more important than these three. Nothing. And they are clarity, consistency, and patience. So bear in mind with this is why we preset it up to be that the ones who've been successful have been simple. They start in one area, and they build up their audience, and they build up their fandom, so that when they move on, level up to whatever it may be, they have a loyal fan base. But how do you do it yourself? Well, clarity, consistency, and patience is the key to that success. So I'm going to break them down for you. I'm going to give you some facts about it as to how it works and what you can do with it. So the first one, and these are definitely in order of importance, 100%. First one you have is clarity. So clarity of message and clarity of image. So when I talk about clarity of message and clarity of image, what I mean by this is how clear is it that you do what you do? So when I look at what you do, message and image, let's talk about message first. If I ask you what you do, can you tell me in 60 seconds or less who you help, what you help them do? So mine is, I help coaches, consultants, and freelancers clarify their marketing message, establish themselves as a thought leader, and unlock their social selling potential. Done. Like, that's my message. Now there's other levels underneath that, but clear, super clear onto what you do. Now, when it says clarity of image, I mean the way you look, the way you present yourself. So is it clear that if I didn't watch that piece of content, and this is what people don't realize, if I didn't watch that piece of content, I still knew it was you? This is like Instagram stories or any stories function, Facebook, LinkedIn, whoever you use for stories. People aren't watching your content, but they're seeing it, and they're going to be seeing this stuff. So is your image really clear? Is your message really clear? If they are clear, then what will happen is people will start to want to work with you. They'll start to want to buy from you. They'll start to understand what you do. It will be very clear. Now, why is it so important to have a clear message? Like, why is it so important? The reason why is the average human attention span is 8 seconds. I love the little goldfish sat there. So the average human attention span is 8 seconds. So we need to be clear in our message. Fun fact on this one is that the average human attention span now is 8 seconds. In regards to, 2 decades ago in 2000, it was 12 seconds. So the social media kind of consumption, the digital world we live in, the scrolling culture is eroding our attention span at such a rate where it is so quick that people are not understanding this. So we have lost a third of our attention span in 2 decades. And I think it will go down again. I do. So this is really important. And the joke on this one is actually a goldfish has an attention span of 9 seconds. So when someone says, "Oh, you got an attention span of a goldfish," then you think, okay, well, actually, that's not a bad thing. That's a compliment. So if we take this statistic that the average attention span is 8 seconds, and we apply this, let's remove the beauty of everything and our feelings as creatives, because we are creatives, and I know how that feels, and you know it's good, and you know that people get it. But what I want you to do is think, okay, actually, is it clear what I do in 8 seconds? If I looked at your content now, if you handed me your content in my feed, could I tell what you did in 8 seconds? And if I can't, you have to be really honest with yourself, because if I can't tell what you're doing, I'm going to go to my competitor, who I'm going to go do what they do. And you go to your competitor, I'm going to go, oh, do you know what? It's really clear. This is where visibility over ability is more important. You know, it's not actually about being the best. It's about being the most seen and being the most clear. So if I can't tell within 8 seconds what you do, I'm going somewhere else. And I hate to tell you this, but so is every single one of your consumers. No matter how much, okay, community and stuff matters, of course, but we're trying to talk about outreach and new stuff. So get that going. Think about it. 8 seconds. How clear can you be? So that's the first one, clarity. So if your content is not clear, that could be the biggest downfall. Once you're on, you've got a clear message, and these are in order. So you have to, as I said, because consistency is brilliant, but if you haven't got a clear message, then there's no point. So consistency is the next step. Consistency is so vital. Consistency in delivering that message and image. So when we've got a clear message and a clear image, so you want to look a certain way and sound a certain way, and you deliver a certain words, and that's what you're known for, you want to be consistent in delivering that message. Now, when it comes to consistency, what I mean by this is when I open up my newsfeed, am I seeing you? Am I seeing you on a Monday, Wednesday, Friday? Am I seeing you on 7 days a week? Now, it doesn't matter how many times you want to upload, but am I consistently encountering your brand? And we call these brand touch points. So every time someone comes into contact with some relation of your brand. Now, by the way, brand touch points, let's remove the social media world head of our mind, is that brand touch points is if I bump into you in Tesco's. Brand touch points is if I see stuff like, so in the chat here, Alex Hughes just jumped in. Nice to see you, mate. That I've heard of Alex loads of times before, because I worked in St. Neots and I'd seen him. I'd heard of Shift Momentum. I heard the whole thing. Brand touch points, consistently showing me up, and I'd heard of them. So when I actually spoke to Alex for the first time, I kind of felt like I knew who he was, even though we'd never had a conversation. And this is because it was consistently appearing in my feed and consistently appearing in the right ways. So you have to think about this when it comes to your brand. Are you consistently delivering it? Now, one thing that's really important to understand with this is consistently making content is not about, it's consistency over intensity. So actually, when you're making content, are you actually first of all, make content that you can stick to? So if people do this all the time, it's like going to the gym. They'll go, oh, you know what? I'm going to hit the gym. I do this all the time. 5 days a week. I'm going to run every single day. I'm going to lift every single day. And then 5 days later, I'm literally can't move. And I'm thinking, oh my God, this is really sore. Everything hurts. And I just give up. Now, the truth is with that is that, like, if I probably worked out twice that week, I probably would have stuck with it. And if I work out twice every single week forever, I'd be so much better off. It's exactly the same thing when it comes to your branding. Now, the reason why is, again, a little statistic here for you. The average person needs 8 to 10 online interactions before they consider buying. By the way, there might be tons of spelling mistakes in this because I'm dyslexic, so I don't know. Before considering buying. So they need 8 to 10 online interactions. So I get this all the time when I work with people on a coaching basis, and they go, I've been doing video for 3 weeks, 4 weeks, and it's not working. And I'm like, well, you have to think about this. Each person is going to have around 8 to 10 online interactions. Bearing in mind then, when we think that this is where consistency is very important, once you're clear on your image, consistent in your image, are you actually realizing that all social media platforms are not showing all your network, all of your content? So some of these people might be taking 6 months, maybe a year, depending on how frequent you're putting out content, before they get to see their 8 to 10 online pieces of content before they consider moving to the next level. So being consistent is really important. There's no quick fix to becoming omnipresent, but the more obviously you are on, the more content you put out, then of course that's going to increase the chances of more people seeing it. And this is where the Gary Vaynerchuk thing has merit, where he'll say the more content you make. Now you've got to do it within reason. Quality is just as important as quantity. Don't just throw any old rubbish out there, because it will cause problems later on. But consistency is really important. Now, when it comes to content on this, one little tip is make sure that, and this is my thing, and thing is actually that actually you have to think about content is either taking you one step closer to your brand or one step further away from your goals. So a big example of this, guys, is if you are following me, and this goes against many people's personal brand, especially a lot of personal branding people, but it works. And I have worked with so many people now to know that it definitely works, is that if you are following me, you are following me for personal brand content. So when I post a piece of content, and I've done it on my personal Facebook page here and there, I put a photo of my son, but when I post a bit of content that is not related to anything I do, so I'm workout or I'm running or a photo of my dinner, it actually erodes trust, because we're talking about this 8 seconds again. And actually people follow you for a specific reason. They don't follow you to find out about your life. They follow because they want to, in my case, for me, they want to learn how to brand themselves. So when I'm sharing all my other hobbies that I love to do, and I have loads of hobbies, I'm a creative guy. I love it. Playing guitar, like running, working out, gaming, so I have so many hobbies, it's scary. And the truth is, no one else. No, if I put all of those things on there, then I'm going to lose business. We're talking long game here. I'm going to lose business in the long game, because I'm not reinforcing. I'm not actually reinforcing the idea that I'm the go-to guy for personal branding, because you dilute the message, so it's unclear. So when you hear people say show your human side and show your personal side, you want to do that, but you want to do it in smart ways, so it's still aligning with your brand and aligning with your message. If you're just posting out left, right, and center around your own kind of what you're up to at the weekend and stuff, I can tell you right now, it might do you'll get some business from it. But I'm talking long-term, building legacy brands, building people who are going to be influencers in their space within a number of years. They don't do that. Success leaves clues. They are unrelatably great at what they do, not relatable. So it's quite an interesting one. And then the last one to consider is patience. So if you've got clarity of message, you've got consistency in delivering that clear message and image, so you're always showing up, then patience is the last one. You better, strap in and enjoy the long slog of what it takes when it comes to building a personal brand business worth having. This is something that people massively misunderstand, is that Rome was not built in a day. You are never going to achieve those goals. And I get this in consultations where someone will say, I want to achieve X, Y, or Z, and you think, well, this is never that, that's fine, but that's a 10-year goal. That's not something that's not going to happen in 8 weeks. And I think that's partly due to our culture of now very much instant gratification. But I'm a big believer in laying the facts down for you and going, look, this is the truth. If you want to go down this road of building a big brand, a personal brand business where people work with you because of you, then once you're clear and once you're consistent, which can take ages, you need to understand how long it takes. Now, this is my favorite one with this, to put this into perspective, is if we consider YouTube being really the hub, the holy grail when it comes to personal brand content, because they're the only ones really who've had a tried and tested monetization strategy. They've got AdSense. People can make a full-time career being purely a YouTuber. And if you have like say 1 million followers on Instagram and then you had 1 million subscribers on YouTube, you're going to make a lot more money on YouTube than you would be anywhere else because it has that more legitimate level. I don't know why, but it just kind of does. So I take YouTube in this for one of these things. Now, one of my one of my kind of somebody I know, one of my friends is a guy called Nick Nimin. Nick is a YouTube coach. I'm part of his group, and he's coming on the podcast actually on Monday, so it'd be great to have him on. He's a big time YouTube coach, and he did some work with TubeBuddy to work out, and this is to give you these statistics, to work out how many videos does somebody have to upload to get 1 million subscribers. So it'd be interesting if you're in chat to think, what if people in the chat this, what do you think that will be? You know, what do you think the average YouTuber needs? The average YouTuber has how many videos have uploaded with 1 million subscribers? Because this is really what people don't understand, is that actually the average YouTuber with 1 million subscribers has uploaded 3,873 videos. This statistic has been taken from TubeBuddy, which is like pretty much the number one software for YouTubers to SEO optimize their content. And this has been taken over a 3.5 million account spread. Obviously, it's 50 million YouTube accounts. So obviously, this is very, very crazy. But the average YouTuber with 1 million subscribers has uploaded 3,873 videos. That means that if you created a video every single day, 7 days a week, it would take you about 10.5 years, over 10 years, roughly around 10.5 years to reach that number. And this is what I'm a big advocate of when it comes to patience, is that do not ever, for two reasons. One, you need to align your input with your expectations to realize that your output will come there. But also that you must never be hard on yourself when you start 2 years in, 3 years in, and you've only got 1,000 subscribers or 1,000 followers, because it's a long haul. And when you're making content, you might feel like it's not actually giving you anything back. You might feel like actually this doesn't, I'm not getting the interaction it deserves. But if I always keep this number in my head, that's 3,873 videos. That's what I keep in my head. I keep in my head the 8 to 10 online interactions, and I keep in my head the 8 seconds. If you keep these 3 facts, I think they're the most important when it comes to making content. If you keep those 3 facts, data, actually factually correct, you keep those in your head and you make content around that with those 3 things in mind, you find that you will make better, more relatable content to your audience, and it starts to reframe how long success will be, and you'll be less hard on yourself and less downhearted. So those are the 3 core principles when it comes to building a personal brand. Get clear on your message, get consistent in delivering that message that you can do week in and week out without any fail, and be patient and don't be hard on yourself. Because understand that to be these massive influencers that you see, then they take time. And don't get me wrong, with that, I will say that actually, of course, if you there will be people out there who have 1 million subscribers and only uploaded a few videos, and of course, there's always going to be outliers. Always, there's always going to be people who can be clear with can be unclear in their message and still get business. Of course, because it's not a science. But for most of us, if we follow these steps, you will be successful. And I think that's the most important thing to understand, is anyone can build this business if you follow certain steps. Don't bank on the ideas that these storm in a teacup moments. I believe I've not met anyone who still couldn't build a personal brand today. So that's how you become omnipresent, guys. The most important thing you should do above anything else is you start to take action. If you are watching this now, you are listening to this, wherever you are, whether it's on the live or you're recording, do it. Start now. Get clear on that message. Write down what it is you want to do, what it is that the type of content you want to create. Make one piece of content, put it everywhere. Start. You can sit and you can listen to me, you can read, you can do whatever you want, but unless you start, you will never be building up to that 3,873 videos. You're never going to be building that online interaction number. It's a numbers game. And I think the biggest thing is just get going. So if you've enjoyed this, the one thing I would say then, obviously any questions we dive in now. If you found that useful, you can check out my podcast, which is there's literally like 5-minute episodes because everyone's got a short attention span. So no episode is longer than 10 minutes. Most are about 5, all around these type of things. And if you think there's any guests I need to interview, please as well, let me know because I will interview them. Thank you very much for that. If there's any questions, then let me know. How do I do this now? Stop screen share. Hello. This is where we get it again. Oh, it's one of those. No, I'm joking.
I'm glad that your internet seem to be working and everyone else's internet seems to be working throughout the whole time. So it's just me. So these last couple minutes will be wobbly because my internet forces out every couple.
It's not good at all, is it, Lenka? It's terrible. See if we've got some questions.
Claire, one of our loyal members, is asking, or she says that her biggest challenge with kind of personal branding is knowing her brand inside out, that it still keeps her up at night. Do you have any tips on really getting to the core of understanding who you are as a professional, as a brand, but also how to translate that into the content, into your online presence while being authentic, transparent, but obviously we don't want to be oversharing and being really, where is the line and how do you do that?
Yeah, no, it's brilliant. So that's really good. Like that'll keep you up all the time, by the way. It's Claire, yeah. So because I'm bouncing in and out as the thing is set. So that don't ever feel bad about that, Claire, because that keeps me up all the time as well. Still, I'm like, just when I think I figured it out, I'll go, oh no, it's not aligned again. So one of the most important things when it comes to this is you need to be, and I love this idea, is that if you kind of get yourself out of the way, you'll start to find this. So there's 3 questions that I get people to answer, and I do it for myself, to kind of unlock what your brand is without making it like who have absolutely like without making it too complicated, And so first question is, what annoys, so pick your topic and then think what annoys you about your industry. So write down 3 things that annoy you about your industry. Then write down 3 things that upset you about your industry. So write 3 things that annoy you, 3 things that upset you. And then write down 3 ways that you can fix it. This sounds really silly, and you think, okay, how are you doing this? But there's a reason why. And I learned this. This is not my method. I use it with my clients, but this comes from a guy called Mike Kim, who is just a living legend when it comes to personal branding. And he's a genius. And he was him who I did this when I was listening to his show years ago, and it's incredible. And what annoys you is frustration, because what annoys you about the industry is going to resonate with other people. They'll be annoyed about the same things. I have these. So then what upsets you is compassion. So in other words, that's the things that you see that breaks your heart, that shouldn't exist. Those 6 things, we call this, it's known as a straight line system, which is if that's these 6 things, if your perfect audience will if they tick all 6 of those, they're your ideal client. And then how you fix it is 3 ways you fix it. Now, your 3 ways you fix it should be, with me, my 3 ways is like created an online program, what's the second one without it being in front of me? Create an online program, live my brand every single day so that people know what I look like and I practice what I preach. And then also the third one was I created a free podcast. Now the idea of how that works is that those 3 things are your products. So if you do that, this is what you would call your story. And this is your story. And what's beautiful about this is if you do this correctly, not once do you say, I've been doing this for 7 years, or I've been doing this and this. what you actually do is you effectively hold a mirror up to your client, and they see everything that they don't like about the situation without really knowing anything about you. Because the truth is, they don't actually, Lenka Bess is bouncing around. The truth is, they don't really care that much about you and your brand. So the best way of that is, what annoys you, what upsets you, how can you fix it? That should be your brand identity. You build everything around that, because we are too busy. We're always trying to be, and I like this, one of my friends said this, we're always trying to be the Luke Skywalker of our story. We're always trying to be the leader of our story, or the hero of our story. And the truth is, we shouldn't be. We should be the Master Yoda. We should be the person who people actually, we're the wise person helping our clients through the story. So we focus too much on our story as opposed to what, our story as opposed to what our clients needs and how we can help them. So I answered the question there for you, Lenka, while you jumped in and out.
Awesome. We have a question from Eva, and she's asking, do you need to have a logo to build a personal brand? And I kind of know where she's coming from, because she is employed, she's looking for a full-time job, she's currently not in a proactive stage of being an entrepreneur and building the personal brand. But I know it from my own journey when I still was at uni or internshipping and looking for a full-time job. I was putting some time aside, and at the time Twitter was a big thing and Twitter chats were a big thing, and it really helped me over in the last 2-3 years, helped me build a brand.
Oh, we'll see how this one works. So I'll answer that question then while we're talking, because it's, do you need to have a logo to build a personal brand? Well, the answer to that is no, you don't need to. Personal branding is so much more. Personal brand is built from 5 areas, which is 5 areas of an ecosystem: physical identity, digital identity, story, network, and social proof. So that's how you build a personal brand. It's built from these 5 core, not core areas, they're 5 ecosystem areas. And what is quite interesting, you got Lenka, bless her, just stood there. What is quite interesting with this is, you don't need to have a logo at all, but you can have a logo if you would like. So if you would like to have a logo, then of course that's going to make things easier. I have it's like an ABC, which is Ash Borland Coaching, which is my business. It's ABC, but it's AB and the C is like a circle. And I actually originally created that as Ash Borland with a C, knowing that it could be a circle. Originally it was just me as when I was making content. So I would say that if you want to have one, absolutely, it's a good idea. Do you need to have one though? Absolutely not. No, not at all. I think it would be the last thing on my kind of list if it comes to, when it comes to like priorities. There's a lot more stuff to do. Content is very important. Clarity though, consistency, and so that those main 3, get those 3 down before you start looking at like the bells and whistles of graphics and stuff like that, in my opinion. I think Lenka's coming back in now, and I think I hopefully have answered that question for you. Or she's not. It's like I've got this really cool sound deck which I'm messing about with, and I'm trying to think how I could ever use it with you guys in this thing, but none of it really works. So we'll use that one. I've got a dream sound. Let's try this one out. But it's not working. I'll have a look through the chats and see what we've got here then, if there's anything else, whilst Lenka's coming in there. Do I have any examples of public figures who have blown it by trying to change their image and failing? Yes and no. I think that's Facebook user, by the way. So yes and no. First one, I'd say there's examples of people who have done this and done it correctly, which is one of the best ones. I'll just take over. You can just bring them up as when you go through. Amazing. So there are some amazing examples of people doing this effectively, very effectively. It's great. So Miley Cyrus did this amazingly well when she started off. She did that whole wrecking ball thing, and she completely killed off. She had to kill off the brand of Disney because that's how we knew her. And she re-educated our brain to understand her as not that. And she did it really, really well. Another one who's done it very well, Zac Efron's done it very, very well recently, where he is, where he came back and he was an adult taken seriously. You see a lot of Disney stars and child stars do it. Ones who do it quite wrong, it's more about if they're giving off the wrong, they put the wrong information out there. My biggest one with this is like Tiger Woods. So Tiger Woods positioned himself with his ecosystem as a family man. With these 5 key areas, he positioned himself as the family man, the people's champ. And when we found out, that his history wasn't so aligned with that, whether you agree with what he did or disagree with what he did is kind of irrelevant, because what it actually mattered was his message, his clear message, didn't align with what his actions were, and because of that, it all broke down. What's quite funny with that is all the stuff that he did. Any rock star, any rap artist that we have ever seen, any music mogul kind of party animals, sex, drugs, rock and roll, like everything else like that, we wouldn't even bother. It doesn't bother us. But it's quite interesting because when it comes to Tiger Woods, it hugely bothered us. It's why it bothers us with politicians and things like that. So there's a lot of people where they get it very wrong. And the problem with that is they've not created a brand around who they truly are as opposed to who they think they should be. Don't do that because it's very hard work. What other questions do you have? You want to just bring them up, Linker, and then I'll answer whichever one's next. How do I express more of my personality online? I think some of how I react and speak doesn't translate online. So the best thing I would say with this Facebook user, I don't know who you are because obviously you haven't given permissions, but I'll call you Facebook user. When it comes to translating your best self, think, how do you best communicate? So I am a trained actor. I was a performer, and I best communicate by video and audio. Like I'm very confident on camera. I have no issue with holding audience and holding a room and anything like that. So for me, that was where it would come in. However, if I actually had, sorry, I've got to look at the questions coming up. If I had been told to write, and I said to you in the presentation, I'm dyslexic, I never would have done that. That's the worst place for me to have to put my message out there. So to get your personality across, I think you really do need to, one, communicate in your best way. And sometimes that can be short form content. Sometimes that's long form content. My short form content, as much as I did a poll, 86% of people said they prefer short form content. But actually, I'm quite a knowledgeable guy, and my knowledge doesn't come across in short form content the way it does in like a 4-minute video. So I make a choice that I think that's probably the best way to get my personality and my experience across. Goes against the data because it's okay to go against the data, but you have to think about that. So I would say pick the thing you like. If you are doing video, a really important thing, you might have seen this all behind me, to show your personality, use subtle prop cues. So things behind you, things around you, the things you wear, what you dress like, these are going to give off more than you ever realize. You don't have to say anything. People who are watching this, if you're a 90s nostalgic gamer, you would understand that is a Sonic the Hedgehog. There's a Halo guy there. That's a Pikachu. I don't have to tell you that. You would know it. And the ones who don't know it don't have to worry about their brain with it. And that's really important when it comes to video content. Show subtle cues through that.
Like, for example, I have some travel pictures here, so people will kind of immediately know that, travel is my thing. And if I'm not sitting here, I would be somewhere on the mountain or somewhere over there.
Perfect example. That's a brilliant example.
So we have a couple of questions that came before from Meetup. And Lillian said that she's attending for a client in the US who has found that she has better engagement with non-product related content. So I think the question is around, how do you kind of balance the personality, engagement, a little bit of education, entertainment with the self?
Yeah. I get what you mean. I lost the last bit there, but I kind of get what you're saying. So they found that they're better engagement with non-product related content, of course. So engagement is not everything. There's a great guy that I know called Sam Winsbury who talks about if you create content that is so if you create content that has 20 likes but you get no clients because it's nothing to do with your business, then it's pointless. You said, but, or like say 100 million likes, whatever it may be. So, but then you create content and it has 3 likes, but those are 3 perfect clients. That is a successful post. It's more successful than an engagement post. So that's one thing, first of all, to highlight. Before I move into answering the question properly, is that engagement is a really bad way, I think, to judge stuff, because it can cause more issues. Now, when it comes to this non-product related stuff, I think you have to find ways of adding value that is aligned with it. So if you're selling a product, let's talk about that. So my product, the only product, I have 2 things. I sell 2 things. I sell online coaching, and I have a method which is online, but now is so I sell one-to-one coaching, and I'm selling an online course which is coming out soon. I don't talk about those things. I will talk about it in this because it's an OVO, but even that, I'm still not pitching it because I haven't told you anything about it and I'm not bothered. But the truth is that those 2 things, I very rarely, like I could count on one hand, maybe in the last, since 2021, where I've actually made a post saying, this is what it is and this is what you need to get it for. Like I just don't do it, because this is all about what we call soft CTA. It's all about creating content that people resonate with. So all my content is like how to be a better personal brand. I interview people, what did they do, dissect what they've done and explain why it's worked. So most people don't know why they've made it work, but they'll say what they did, and then I can go, that's worked because of this, this, and this. So my content very rarely actually has anything to do with ever really like buy my stuff or show my product. So I would say that whatever they're doing with the client in the US, what they do, try and find ways that they can add value within their area and in industry with product placement. I'm guessing this is the product stuff, but that's probably more powerful than saying, this is my product, buy it. So I think you have to look at it that way, in my opinion, because you will always get more engagement on things that are more that are not selling and are not direct. That being said, don't go too far. It's like uploading photos of your dogs or your kids. I see this all the time. I've got like a very young son. He's 4 months old or whatever, and 4.5 months. And if I put a photo of him on Facebook, I get way more likes. But that has no bearing on me getting a client. So don't be a slave to the engagement. I'd say trust your gut, add value around your area, show your expertise. How-to content always does worse than in regards to engagement than entertaining content, but it also will establish you as an authority. What else have we got?
Hopefully a simpler question. Emma has asked, how do you find the time to post on LinkedIn consistently?
I just do it. No. So this stuff is just priority. It's how do you prioritize something? Posting on LinkedIn is quite easy. A great LinkedIn strategy for you guys, for anyone who's doing this, you can do what I call it a daily rundown. If you don't have time to make content, LinkedIn really likes written word really, really well. So Emma, what I would say, or anyone else who wants to know this, go onto LinkedIn Monday to Friday at the end of the day, at the end of the working day, 6 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, and write down 3 things you did that day that you enjoyed. Be sure to tag people in, the people that you met, people that you spoke to, tag them in, do that 5 days a week. Your profile will grow because you're demonstrating network, you're demonstrating social proof, you're demonstrating a community, and it's super easy. I think you have to just find the time. It's how badly do you want it? But LinkedIn is probably one of the easiest ones. Do that rundown. I have like a 7-day challenge that can see if you can do it. I mean, it's not live yet, but I can give you guys the link once it's done that gives you this stuff. It's just that, but that's the best way. I'll send you the link, Lenka, so you know it's not actually live, but it will be. So I'll give it to you before. But it just does that. It documents pretty much. It's 5 days. It's like 2 days to prepare and then 5 days of like, this is what you need to do. And it's pretty much LinkedIn focused. You'll kill it. It's very easy.
I think the beauty of LinkedIn is that you really don't need to overthink the content. The content doesn't need to be polished.
Yeah.
You can use your posts, even though you have LinkedIn stories. I don't think LinkedIn stories as a thing work, but you can use your main post as a storytelling feature where It doesn't need to be perfect, polished, or long, but as I said, consistently showing up on a regular basis and commenting on other people doesn't need to take forever, but committing to certain level, definitely it's the way forward. We have one more question. If anyone has any other questions, please let us know. We still have a couple minutes to go through them. Another question from Eva. She's asking, would you advise every CEO to have a personal branding consultant by his side? It seems to be a trend recently, mainly on LinkedIn.
That's a push for me then. I don't know. Like, I don't. I think, okay. Yes, I would say they should. It does seem to be a trend. The problem I find with a lot of them, and I know quite a lot of people in the space now, is that sometimes it's good. I think it's a good thing to have. I think every CEO definitely should have it, because they're going to be most likely, as time goes on, if they're employed CEO, they could be sunsetted out of that career quicker than they think. And if they haven't built their own brand, then I think it's a concern. I think it's not just for CEOs. I think professional sports players need it. I think anybody who is part of an organization has power and influence, but is not capitalizing on that power. A friend of mine called Philip Van Dusen said that on my show, he said that the thing he realized, he was VP of branding. So he was a vice president of branding and marketing for PepsiCo. And, like, so Walker's Crisp, Pepsi, Cheetahs, like everything. And he was like, when I left, he was like, because he said they had a reshuffle and that's everything. I left, and I was like, I'm a nobody, because he said I hadn't built my brand. Now he's massive now and he's done really well, but he was like, I hadn't built my brand. So I wish I had. No company is going to invest in that, because it's building your brand, which is an investment that the CEO would have to take, or the sports person have to take. The clubs or the organizations are not going to invest in it. Do I think it's a good idea to have? Yes, I do. Do I think everyone needs it though? No, I don't, because some people are super self-aware. Some people are super self-aware and they're doing things right. I think you only need it if your goal is to really build a brand, because it's hard work. Like, if your goal is to really build a brand around yourself, then absolutely. But if you don't need a consultant, if you're just like, oh, I just want to kind of build a brand. If your goal is to be like, I want to be known, but when my name is mentioned, everyone knows who I am, and then yes, you need someone to consult, a coach, a consultant. I mean, I'm pretty much a consultant, but the understanding digital marketing, the term coach, personal branding coach, ranks higher on SEMrush, so that's what I am right now. But it's one of those things where that is, I'm a consultant, and I think I would say that it's only relevant if you really want to pursue that type of notoriety. If you don't, then I wouldn't waste your money, because it's hard work. It's hard work, and it's like an extracurricular activity. So that's what I would say to that one.
Fantastic. And I think that's for the questions. In case one of them will pop later on, I will say huge thank you. Thanks for powering through without me at times, which was fantastic, that at least on your end and apparently on the viewers' end, the signal held strong. So where would be the best place for people to go and to follow you and to connect with you, and if they want to work with you, to reach you?
LinkedIn. LinkedIn is the best place for that. If you want to learn about what I do, you can go to my YouTube channel, which is Ash Borland, which is new. I've just kind of started that at the moment. But my podcast, best place for value, guys, is podcast. Best place to connect is LinkedIn. So personal branding secrets, you type that in on any podcasting station, it'll come up. It'll be number 1 or number 2. And if you find me, Ash Borland, on LinkedIn, it's my favorite platform. I'm also at Ash Borland on every other place, but LinkedIn is where, if you want to reach out with me and learn about what I do as a coach, then reach out to me on there, and I'm always game to answer any questions.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Ash. There was one thing I wanted to say to everyone watching, but I'm very doubtful that the internet will last. So I will give it a try and I will see. We're excited to announce it's not April's Fool. The next Cambridge Social Media Day virtual will be on the 18th and 20th, 19th and 20th. I'm looking at it, I can't even read it. So confused about the internet. 19th, 20th October, virtual Cambridge Social Media Day. Tickets, super early bird tickets, you can see. Early bird gets the worm, are on website, are live now. You can go and book them. More information will be shared soon. I'll try to stop talking because I'm not believing that the internet will last. So that is a very quick announcement. And I wanted to say huge thanks to Ash for being here, for his amazing insights. And yeah, go follow him on LinkedIn, watch his videos, follow his podcast, and learn from his example of how you really smash it with personal branding. Thank you.
Thank you for having me on.
Awesome. Bye, guys.